We're bringing you breaking news right now. We're going live to the Mobile County where the mother of 20-month-old Dakota Burke is being walked to the Mobile County Jail right now. She and her husband have been charged with the little girl's murder.
Summer Everett and Chrisopher Knapp were married on Monday, and tonight both have been arrested in connection with the death of that little girl. You can see her being walked right now from the Mobile County Sheriff's Office. It is a very long walk to the Mobile County Jail. Local 15's Andrea Ramey is there. Let's see if we can pick up any questioning now.
Yeah, hey guys, we're involved in this perp walk right now. So far, Summer Everett has not said anything about the charges against her. The other person who's being charged in this case, Chrisopher Knapp, he's also being walked. Let's go to him. Hey, Mike, right here behind us. If we could go to Chrisopher Knapp. Sorry, this is all taking place just right now. They were just arrested this afternoon and being brought from the administration building now to the jail where they will be docked. Chrisopher Knapp, do you have anything to say about the murder charges against you? How do you explain the horrific injuries that this poor little girl suffered that investigators say burns on her hands, feet, on her face? How do you explain these injuries? Christopher, did a defense attorney advise you to get married because that you wouldn't have to testify against your spouse? Were you advised to get married several days ago?
No defense here, huh? And are you at least scared? It's a murder charge. It's very serious, and this is a 20-month-old baby.
Do you miss Dakota? Is there any remorse there? Do you miss that little girl? Is it sad that she's gone now forever?
And nothing to say to your family? They're watching this.
What's wrong with her? You're about to be booked, Summer. Anything that you'd like to say? Last chance. Hey guys, we gotta stay outside the Sally Port. Christopher, last chance for comment. Okay, well there you guys go. Summer Everett and Chrisopher Knapp being booked into the Mobile County Metro Jail right now. They're both being charged with murder and aggravated child abuse. That was a very long perp walk. They were arrested about an hour ago. They were taken over here to the administration building where they were questioned. We were told that they have said nothing. Excuse me, I'm a little out of breath. That they told investigators nothing, and they were just walked over here through the Sally Port to be booked. We're told that the sheriff here in just a few moments will be coming out to give a statement, but what we know so far, what investigators have told us, is that on New Year's Eve they were called to the hospital that this 20-month-old girl, Dakota Burke, had horrific injuries all over her body, burns on her hands, feet, face, traumatic injuries that were obvious to her face and head, and that she succumbed from those injuries on January 8th. And here today, just a few days later after her death, her mother and her new husband have been arrested for the murder in that case. And coming out now is the sheriff. Sheriff, what can you say about the arrest this afternoon?
Well, they arrested them at the man's parents' house, and it concludes this investigation, or brings us to this point. I would tell you that the detectives have said they've never seen such an extended amount of abuse inflicted on a small child in their entire career. Of course, it was the serious injuries that led to the girl's death, but it takes a toll on the detectives, and they've never seen such harm inflicted on a child. The child endured quite a bit of harm before dying.
And are both Summer and Christopher, are they both believed to be active participants in this abuse, or do you believe that one had more to do with the abuse than the other covering it up, or how do you?
Well, we can't get into all those finer details, but the mere fact that both charged with murder would speak to that question, that they're both involved in one form or fashion or another. I would say that we do want to thank members of the public that have helped us on this case. We got a lot of tips through social media. We located additional witnesses through social media. A lot of people have stepped forward to give the detectives the necessary evidence, and so we thank our partners in helping us with this case. The district attorney's office and the medical examiners, as well as the medical professionals
And they were
that
both
worked in
pretty,
this case.
they were both pretty silent. They didn't say anything while they were doing this walk. I mean, were they like this in your entire dealings with these guys, or was there a point where they just stopped talking to you guys and cooperating?
There were some initial statements which showed some conflicts, and then shortly after that, in our term we use, they lawyered up. That we were contacted by 2 attorneys that said they represented them and would forbid them to speak to us. And so, as I've said, that's a kind of an impediment, but certainly it's not a deal killer in this case. Again, we've had several other witnesses, you know, people very close to them that were able to step forward and tell us what we needed to know to progress and go forward in this case.
What kind of evidence can you say you've got against these 2 folks here that were arrested?
Well, that will all play out in court. We think it's very substantial evidence. Certainly it will sustain the charges that we have against them.
And you said witnesses. Talk about the interviews you have conducted so far.
Well, the detectives, probably 6 or 7 you see around here, have all interviewed several different people. People in one form or fashion have evidence or testimony they can give.
Family members?
Well, we have family members, we have friends, we have relatives, and we have medical professionals, all of which we believe will contribute to the evidence in this case.
Will they be allowed to attend
Was this a deliberate act, or was this an accidental thing that led to her death?
Once again, the charges speak to the actions. You know, the charge of murder speaks to deliberate and stuff like that, and the applicable law. So they've been charged with murder and child abuse, and of course, you know, it's in the hands of the district attorney's office now to take the case forward. We have been in constant consultation with him, and you know, they'll go forward in the presentation of the evidence, and we're just glad we're at this point.
Her funeral is Saturday. Will they be allowed to attend the funeral? Will her mother be allowed to attend her daughter's funeral?
You know, she'll have a bond hearing, and but you know, if she's out on bond, I guess she could go. If she's not out on bond, we'll make no special arrangements through this sheriff's office.
And do you know when that bond hearing will take place? Will that be tomorrow?
I think it will be tomorrow, but I'm not sure at this time.
And can you talk about a little bit more in detail about the extent of this child's injuries? We've heard a lot about burns on her face, on her hands and feet. I mean, were these cigarette burns? Just can you talk about the extent and severity of these injuries?
I would just say burns, bruises, and trauma. Without getting into more of the specifics, that will certainly come out in court. But the detectives have said they've never seen a child endure so many continuing injuries leading up prior to the injury that resulted in the death.
Would you say that she was actually tortured?
Well, you know, I'm just saying injuries inflicted upon this, and that this child endured these injuries over a period of time leading up to prior to the actual injury that led
Any
to
indication
death.
on how long that period of time was? I mean, when do we believe that these violent activities?
You know, I just
began?
can't get into so many details of the case. You know, we've really put a lot out there. This child endured a tremendous amount of injury for a period of time, and then later endured injuries that led to her death.
What did the sheriff's department think about them getting married during this investigation?
Probably the exact same thing all of you all are thinking.
And what is that?
Just what I said. It's pretty odd. Never seen it before. You know, to get married before they've even buried the child. You know.
Were they both equally involved in the abuse?
Well, again, I can't speak to all the details. They're both charged with the same offenses, and so that speaks to those charges.
But when they got married, they had a sense that you guys were narrowing in on them?
They probably did when they saw 2 detectives down there watching them, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And can you say what the final injury was that caused her death?
That will come from the testimony of the professionals. I can't add anything more. Thank you for your coverage, because through all of your coverage, it helped us bring witnesses forward. Thank you.
And you've been in law enforcement for a long time here, but is this different for you? I mean, we're talking about a 20-month-old baby here.
You know, it's always tough when you have a child of that age, that innocent, that can't speak for themselves, and so that's what the detectives have done.
It seems like it took a while to make an arrest. Could you just speak to how convoluted this case must be?
Well, I don't think this has been lengthy to make an arrest, but as I've described, there have been some impediments to the investigation, simply being that you've got a victim that cannot speak to what has happened to them. You've got the closest people to them not speaking and telling the truth. And then, of course, the baby did not pass away for 7, 8 days, so she was in critical condition, so the detectives were working with would limit at that point in time. And then, of course, when the two suspects here lawyered up, that also created some impediments. And you know, obtaining search warrants and things like that can take time, and we went quite some distances to interview certain people.
And have you seen any remorse from these people, any tears shed, any sign that they're sad at all or remorseful for what happened, any kind of emotion?
They seem to be pretty emotionless.
And I've heard Dakota has a sister. Where's her sister at this time?
I can't speak to that.
Is she in the family's custody, or?
I just can't speak to the whereabouts of other people.
But she was interviewed, correct?
I would just tell you we've interviewed a number of people, and one child that, you know, was on the news that we interviewed. We went through the court process to interview a small child.
But did that child live with Dakota?
You know, I think I've said all I can say. Again, we're going to terminate it, but thank you again for your coverage and interest.
Thank you, Sheriff. All right, you guys have just heard a press conference there with Sheriff Sam Cochran answering some questions about this case. Again, this afternoon we have 2 arrests in the murder case now of 20-month-old Dakota Burke. So tragic how her life came to an end, investigators say, with just horrific injuries all over her body. Her mother, Summer Everett, and her live-in boyfriend, now husband, Chrisopher Knapp, both arrested this afternoon. Both were just taken from the administration building and walked over here to Metro Jail, where they were both booked for murder and aggravated child abuse. They may be in court tomorrow morning for a bond hearing. We will, of course, keep you abreast of any new developments in this case. Kim and Greg.
Andrea, thanks so much.